And so part of that is framing it as we're tougher and meaner on Trump voters. We got them, right? Oh, Jenk, look at him being soft on Trump voters. That's not a real leftist. And as Kyle said, look, man, I don't catch.
Well, I mean, you're not a leftist, number one.
Yeah, right. But I'm on the left.
What? He's like, wait, what? Oh shit. Could you work with people who actually agree with you instead of the idiots who only agree with you on two things? Krystal and Kyle made Jenk look like a bratty child throwing a tantrum. I watched Jenk's interview with Krystal and Kyle. He opened by asking if they live on his planet, an unnecessarily insulting start. Personally, I prefer living in Canada where minor disagreements don't have to spiral into toxic arguments.
Bro, this is on TYT. This is on TYT. Holy shit. Cenk, Anna, let me tell you a story about a scorpion asking a frog to help him cross a river. This guy's having to cite fucking Aesop's fables and shit to teach Cenk this lesson that, again, even children understand. Zach. The vanguard will be there, sir. Yeah, so last night, obviously, Zoran was gaining momentum, and everyone on the left was getting super excited, and the vibes were great. Well, Cenk and Anna took the opportunity to bitch and moan, to cope and seethe, to keep molding, and to trash Krystal and Kyle for no good fucking reason other than their own petty petulance. Specifically, Cenk, I have to give a little bit more credit to Anna. She actually was pretty mature in contrast to Cenk, I think, in this episode, Zach. But, lots of unimpressive contributions from her as well. So super excited to get into this. But yeah, Cenk and Anna, they just could not resist the opportunity to keep going down this rabbit hole, to keep doubling down on, Krystal and Kyle are crazy. They're on a different planet than us. You guys will see what I'm saying. This went on for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy because, we cover independent media, left media, progressive media online for a living, right? And even I was really caught up in what Zoran was doing in a city I don't fucking live in, right? So I went to the grocery store, I went to the Asian market, and I'm like, oh, I will, investigate the Young Turks later. But then, Gavin, you're like, oh, bro, it's popping off. This shit's I'm like, I go to the Chinese market for 5 minutes to get some radishes and some things I need for the soup I'm making. And wow, all hell breaks loose. So I haven't even watched it yet. Cards on the table. I kept meaning to, and then getting wrapped up in the Zoran news and watching the polls close and the demographic breakdown. So I'll admit I'm going into this cold turkey. But to be honest, I don't know what Cenk has left to say after his last rant. Like, where does he go from here?
He has a lot to say. A lot, way more than you can imagine. And also, they're trying to get more views by doing the little coming up thing.
Oh, dude, they've been watching. That's the other thing you mentioned to me. They might have been taking the Vanguard's advice, is what you were saying.
Yeah, well, we kind of went off on them the other day for squandering all the most clickable sort of opportunities and hit clicks. They don't really ever lean into the stuff that people want to hear them talk about on their own show. This time they did cut their rambling, 20-minute long bitch and moan fest into a clip. It has yet to rack up the kind of views that I think they imagined that it would.
Only 43K. That's Vanguard numbers, baby.
Yeah, but for a channel with 6 or 7 million, and let's can you go back to that page and see the view count real quick?
Oh yeah.
Let's take a look. How many? Yeah, 43. So it's not the worst, but TYT responds to leftist criticism. They talk about Kyle and Krystal throughout this video relentlessly. If they really wanted to get a banger clip, they would have said TYT responds to Krystal Ball and Kyle Kulinski, or Cenk unloads on Krystal and Kyle's straw mans, or something like that. Like, as someone who does this professionally, I'm like, are you even fucking trying? This is low effort. If you're gonna post this embarrassing drama clip where you vent and bitch and moan, like I said, at least brand it properly. Yeah, this was pretty big. And they basically started the show out this way. On the night of Zoran's victory, they spent the first 20 minutes of their goddamn show just yapping. It's insane.
Yeah, I can't imagine not getting to the Zoran shit first.
No.
So we'll see if it holds.
Brace for impact. Right?
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. So I've been getting yelled at online all day.
So what's new?
I know, right? What you're saying, that Trump enforcing a ceasefire against Israel is a good thing? No, boo! We don't want Israel to have a ceasefire. No, but wait, we do want Israel to comply with a ceasefire.
That's directly in reference to Pisco, who was hammering Jenk's ass on Twitter. Shout out to Pisco for lawyering Jenk.
Yeah, and again, for someone who accuses other people of strawmanning him, are you fucking kidding me? As if the left is just like, oh, we're against a ceasefire. Yeah, we hate that idea. Come on, bro. Yeah, that's just a grotesque straw man.
No, you have to hate Trump anyway. Okay, all right. Well, anyway, we'll adjudicate. We'll sort that out. Okay.
I think one of the best things that you can do to kind of understand this current political moment, because a lot of things don't make sense if you're kind of operating based on the old partisan lens. I wish that things were as cut and clear as they might have been in the early aughts, but they're not. They're not. And it's hard to make sense of how things are changing and realigning. We'll talk about this tomorrow, so I have time to produce it. But Candace
You mean unaligning?
Owens was on Piers Morgan today for a one-on-one interview. That interview blew my mind, okay? Because everything she said was accurate. Everything she said was true. And everything she said is reminiscent of what you would hear from a left-wing show arguing against essentially aiding and abetting Israel in its genocide.
She's leading into another straw man. She acts like people on the left are incapable of giving credit to people that they otherwise consider to be bad faith actors. Not true. We just gave Anna herself credit the other day on the show for kicking ass on Piers Morgan and for doing a great job on a couple of those panels where she totally destroyed some of these Zionist idiots. In the same way, we also just gave credit to Tucker Carlson for doing a really good job interviewing Ted Cruz. Also, we had to follow it up by talking about how he apparently called Donald Trump to apologize. But still, the day that dropped, we were like, yeah, dude, this is actual journalism. You're doing what so few reporters do here. Kudos to you. Can't believe we're having to give credit to Tucker Carlson, but here we are, right? Same with Candace Owens. I saw a clip the other day of Candace Owens saying that if we're going to do regime change in any country, it should be Israel, not Iran. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll give you credit for saying that. That's a good thing to say. A lot of people that probably don't know much about you will hear that and hopefully be persuaded by it. People on the left are not allergic to giving credit where credit is due. We actually make a fucking point to do that, not just with Cenk and Anna, but with a lot of the folks we criticize.
Yeah, and the thing about Candace Owens that we always follow up with is that she's a legitimate anti-Semite. So it's kind of like a broken clock situation. She is the kind of person who's interested in laundering the reputations of people like Kanye West. She's literally in the process of trying to argue that Harvey Weinstein wasn't guilty. I think the only rational follow-up to what Anna Kasparian is saying right now is, oh my gosh, we need to be more vigilant than ever that we're getting good, accurate information out to the world, because the right wing is perniciously glomming onto a lot of issues that had been left-wing issues for a time. And how is that impacting us? It's allowing the right wing to poach left-wing people, right? It's a huge problem. The Bernie to Trump pipeline did exist. It was embodied by people like Jimmy Dore, right? And it was fueled by people like Candace Owens, who would position themselves as anti-war, who would position themselves as, questioning United States support for Israel, call themselves America first, talk about the plight of young men, all these kinds of things, right? But then spin it and then warp it and then get you down this crazy conspiratorial rabbit hole and feed you a bunch of selective bullshit. That's a problem, right? That's why your job, Anna, that's why my job as a person who also exists in media on this space is to be like, do not fall for the bait that she's putting out, because once she tries to reel you in, she's going to sell you a bunch of crazy shit.
Gaza, for instance.
Yeah, so I'll say it. They had a whole giant Piers Morgan episode about this massive split in MAGA. But I went on Kyle and Krystal just a couple of days ago, and they think there's no split at all.
No, there's definitely a split, right?
But that's what they said. So I don't know if they're on this planet. And when I asked them if they were on this planet, they seem to get mad, and they were, by the way, to be fair to them, they're representing their audience, and their audience doesn't see it at all. That's because they're not getting accurate information. Well, if you think there's no MAGA split,
that is a straight up massive shot across the bow, saying that Krystal and Kyle's audience is not getting accurate information, basically just straight up implying that Krystal and Kyle shouldn't be listened to, that they're lying to you, that they're propagandizing you, that unlike over at TYT, you're not going to get good information if you watch shows like Breaking Points or Secular Talk or Krystal Kyle and Friends. What an outrageous thing to say, especially after getting just destroyed in a debate by those exact people that you're now fucking insulting and saying that, oh yeah, if you're in that guy's audience, you're not getting accurate information. Oh yeah, then why weren't you able to fucking do a little bit of a better job in that debate? You know what I'm saying? Why did you fall apart immediately after being asked a single question by one of those two people? It's fucking crazy.
And not only that, but it's like, let's just compare notes. Let's just look at the scoreboard, everyone. Let's look at the way they've analyzed the situation respectfully between Secular Talk and the Young Turks in the last 6 months. Okay, since Donald Trump has taken office, what did Kyle predict? That Donald Trump was going to escalate, that he was going to let Israel do whatever the hell they wanted, that he was going to do legitimate domestic fascism, that he was going to start a war with Iran. Kyle has been long warning about Donald Trump escalating to a war with Iran. A lot of people thought it was hysterical. A lot of people thought it was hyperbolic. He was proven 100% right. Cenk, on the other hand, has been on this fucking weird quest to prove that MAGA is actually anti-war, even though we saw 70% of them supported his Iran strikes after he did it, just because it's a cult of personality, and Trump did it.
Yeah.
Split in the country, you're a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
So hold on. I wouldn't say they're not getting accurate.
MAGA split in the country, you're a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
So hold on. I wouldn't say they're not getting accurate information. I trust that Krystal and Kyle are giving accurate information.
No, I just mean in general.
Hold on, but what I think is an issue, and I was guilty of this. This was an issue that I had in the way that I was covering stories some years ago. It's that you end up in a bubble and you don't even realize it.
Oh,
right?
That's definitely right.
And when you're in that bubble, there's certain information that's not getting to you. You have to literally actively seek it out because of these algorithms serving up what the algorithm thinks you want to know or thinks you want to see.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything that Candace Owens believes in. Obviously we don't, but that interview was fire. Everything she said in that interview was correct. And if you can't give her credit for saying things that we on the left believe, you really have to ask yourself, how are you operating? Are you operating based on,
again, straw man? People on the left are capable of that. I just don't understand what this is. The issue is when you go on right-winger shows and pander to them and talk about getting beer with them and pretend to debate them, but actually just shit all over the left and prop up everything they're saying. That's the issue. If some right-winger or someone who I otherwise disagree with a lot goes out there and says something I agree with or passionately makes a point that I think is a good point, then yeah, I will give that person credit. I do it all the time. So does Kyle. He's done it over and over again with various people who he disagrees with. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck, Kyle even gave Nick Fuentes credit for being a talented commentator. You know what I'm saying? Like to the chagrin of some. But this is just a straw man. People on the left do this all the time.
Supporting a specific tribe no matter what?
Yes, that's definitely what they're doing.
And if you do that, well, then you're not driven by policy. You're not driven by actually accomplishing the policies that we think will make the country better.
Yeah, look, it's not about Kyle and Krystal at all. I mean, oftentimes, I think sometimes these days, it used to be oftentimes, they're usually among the more reasonable. But these days, like if you're on the left and you're watching any of the other shows, you're not getting accurate information at all.
Bro, it's so funny. He's so jealous that he's alienated himself from everyone else right there. And he's just striking at them for no reason. It's like, bro, you're not in a position to be giving advice. Your brand is tanking.
They're telling you that like the actual Trump voters are liars and they love war. That's not true at all, right? So that's some of the Trump voters will do whatever Trump wants, but a lot of them are actually anti-war. And they're making it seem like almost all the other left-wing shows as if the most extreme MAGA guy represents all 77 million Trump voters. And if you believe that, then you'll hate them. Of course, you'll want to call them fascists.
A lot of people say they're fucking anti-war. You know what? A lot of the people who most vocally supported Putin's invasion on Ukraine said is that they were anti-war and that Putin's invasion was somehow an anti-war thing to get behind. Remember the fucking what was it? Rally against the war or fight? What was it? Rally against the war machine.
Yeah, fight the war machine or something like that.
Yeah, it was like a ripoff of the
I think it was Rage Against the War Machine. That's what they were calling it. It had like a pedophile speaking, a bunch of pro-war
literally
people.
Every single person speaking there was pro-war, and they were called Rage Against the War Machine. And there were all these idiots out here talking about how Ukraine needed to be put down like a dog. And again, I have nuanced feelings about that conflict, and I don't think that the U.S. necessarily should be involved in it. But Obviously, if you're anti-war, you're not going to be defending Putin. You're not going to be defending a fucking illegal offensive invasion of a sovereign country. That's insane, yet they do it. It's a similar thing with MAGA. A lot of Trump supporters, of course, will tell you they're anti-war. Not a lot of people are just going to come out here and be like, you know what I fucking love? Seeing babies blown to bits and civilians slaughtered by bombs. Like, no one's going to say that. But guess what? A lot of the people that even claim to be anti-war, when push comes to shove, or when Trump, say, bombs Iran 3 times, guess what? 80% of them end up supporting it. Kind of inconvenient to what you're saying, Jenk, isn't it? And that's all that Krystal and Kyle pointed out. That's all that they did. They literally put statistics up on screen. They put a fucking poll that said, like, yep, looks like 87% of the MAGA movement supports this. That's your so-called anti-war coalition, bro. Like, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, and played his own words back to him. That's nothing else.
And racists and Nazis and all those things. But that's maniacal. No, as you get closer to the middle, there's a lot of former Obama voters, former Bernie voters, anti-war voters, anti-establishment voters, and almost none of the other left-wing shows are agnowledging that. They're out in la-la land. And honestly, yes, most of the other left-wing shows are totally lying to their audience. And they're saying, no, there's no split. They all will do whatever Trump wants. They're all the same voter. They're all hardcore MAGA, and they're all fascist. And by the way, as Kyle pointed at me and said, yes or no? Is MAGA fascist? Well, what an asinine question. What do you mean by MAGA? What do you mean? And do you mean Trump voters? Because no, not all Trump voters.
You mean intentionally dense. Kyle said, is the MAGA movement a fascist movement? He didn't say, did everyone who ever voted for Trump or ever supported him at any point, is that person a fucking Nazi? Is that person literally Adolf Hitler? Obviously, that's not what Kyle said. Jenk's being intentionally dense. The answer to that question is an obvious fucking yes. It's a fascist movement. Ask someone from not America if MAGA is a fascist movement, and they'll be like, yeah, obviously it's a fascist movement, 100%. It's only because you're in the fucking middle of it, and you have this weird, like, American exceptionalism. Like, oh, no, we couldn't descend into fascism. We are. It's happening right now. Wake up.
It would be like asking, is Nazism a fascist movement? And being like, what? You want me to go back in time and find out about every single person under Hitler's rule? That's crazy. That's asinine. You know, you'll be like, okay, well, was the Jim Crow South a fucking fascist, racist movement? And well, dude, there were good people. Did you know there were black people in the South too? Or were those people racist against themselves, huh? Did you not know it was a functional, like, literally, listen to yourself, dude. Your argument falls apart as soon as you put an ounce of fucking scrutiny to it.
Yep.
They're fascist, but if you say that on another left-wing show, they'll lose their minds. They'll say, no, you have to call them fascists. I'm the purist, I'm the most left.
That's fine.
Give me clicks.
I'm not interested.
Projection, bro, because you're not getting shit for clicks.
Yeah.
In getting into the business of other shows and how they conduct business. You do you, boo, right? But look, I think,
and it's going high.
I just think that there is an interesting dynamic at play when Breaking Points, for instance, which I love. I listen to and watch Breaking Points almost on a daily basis at this point. Krystal knows better than anyone. Sagar and Jetty is very critical of going to war in Iran. Very critical. He's not a left winger.
How could you possibly say there isn't a split? How could you possibly say that? And what they'll do, I swear to God, and I know it.
Guess who's pissed at MAGA right now? Sagar. Guess who is angry with Donald Trump right now? Sagar. You know who's not out here saying that Donald Trump's actually secretly anti-war? Sagar. As far as I can tell, he's like, what the fuck? This is a huge betrayal of everything that came out of his mouth. People who said that he was going to do that were right. I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and he's gone and done a bunch of non-America first escalations.
Yep. And also, it's funny because we actually asked Krystal about this exact question. It was one of the first things I asked her the last time she was on this show. I said, do you think Sagar turning against Donald Trump and his recent criticisms of Donald Trump, do you think that that's indicative of a broader trend in MAGA? And she said, I hope, but I'm not exactly optimistic that it is. So there you go, Anna. Sagar's one fucking dude. And yeah, you also just kind of disproved Jenk's point, which was that Krystal and Kyle are too triggered and they're incapable of debating or talking to right wingers. And then Anna's like, oh yeah, and Krystal does do that every single day, but oops.
Yep, 100%. And also, shout out to Ole. You know, I'm always saying the Vanguard chat is like getting your gas in Santa Monica. You don't know if you're going to see a celebrity or not. You know, it could be an innocuous day, and wow, celebrity sighting. So shout out to Ole for popping up in the chat.
Yeah, shout out to you, Ole. Love to see you in chat. We got to get you back on the show at some point.
Yep, the show the stars are watching, the Vanguard.
They'll move the goalposts. So look, you can look at it. We put the interview up on tyt.com/press, and as you watch it, I just want you to like notice what happens. Right? I say I don't agree with Trump, and I say, but I think we can get some of the Trump voters. Honestly, they're not listening at all. Then they just go back to, so here's what's wrong with Trump, and I'm like, yeah, I agree. That's what's wrong with Trump. So let's talk about how to get the voters in the middle. And they're like, okay, now here's what's wrong with Trump. So like I get frustrated. I'm like, wait, are we having the same conversation here? And so part of that is framing it as we're tougher and meaner on Trump voters. We got them, right? Oh, Jenk, look at him being soft on Trump voters. That's not a real leftist. And as Kyle said, look, man, I don't catch.
Well, I mean, you're not a leftist, number one.
Yeah, right. But I'm on the left.
What? He's like, wait, what? I got, oh shit. Oh shit. That was hilarious. I actually didn't even, I think I must have not been paying 100% attention because I don't remember that last night.
The face you make when you've been pantsed.
Oh my God, we gotta watch
it. That's not a real leftist. And as Kyle said, look, man, I don't catch.
Well, I mean, you're not a leftist, number one.
Yeah, right. But I'm on the left. Like I'm massively on the left, right? And they're like leftists don't represent the majority of the left. I mean, whatever words we use, right? Radical left, whatever. They're a small sliver, right? But they always make it seem like we're the true left. Well, the polling doesn't indicate that at all. At all, okay?
Then why the fuck did Zoran Mandami just win the fucking election overwhelmingly? What the fuck are you talking about? And also, you just admitted that you're not a leftist, so maybe you can shut the fuck up about what the definition of a leftist is and what the definition of a left-wing position is.
You know, Kyle was like, oh yeah, you're coddling them. And he used like some profane language, etc. Like, I'm okay, I'm a grown up, that's fine, I don't care, right? But by the way, if I said that to Kyle and I said, oh, you know what? By helping Trump and MAGA win elections by driving away their voters, driving away the voters that are anti-war, anti-establishment in the middle, you're coddling their balls, Kyle. Okay, we're
hilarious to make that point when you were calling Donald Trump a Nazi all the way up to the point of the election. You literally went and flew to England, Jenk, and had a debate with the trigonometry guys that you pretended never happened because you debated whether or not Donald Trump was a fascist, and you were the guy they brought on to debate that he was a fascist because you'd gone on the record saying that you had to run for the Democratic Party nomination to fight and stop fascism, to stop the threat of Donald Trump. You literally went and interviewed with evil Mr. Beat and his lackey, okay, and argued that Donald Trump was fascist. And then, because you thought nobody was looking, you were like, oh, actually, I'm going to pretend that I think MAGA's anti-war and do a quick rebrand because I was so dead wrong about the election. Well, instead of just being true to your position, you're now reaping what you sow.
Yeah, also, we got to go back like 10 seconds and hear that again. Because, guys, one of the reasons I used to love TYT back in the day when I first found it was that Jenk got so colorful on the mic and that they would cuss and that they would, you know, come up with funny expressions. And even Kyle referenced that. He was like, when Jenk used to say, well, break your back and drink your spinal fluid. You know, that's the kind of shit they would say. And now here Jenk is trying to scold Kyle, trying to like tattletale like your shithead fucking friend when you were in 5th grade who would run and tell mommy when you said a mean word and like try to get you fucking in trouble or whatever for attention, right? That and so they feel like they have a little bit.
Not talking about me.
No, but you know who I'm fucking talking about.
Dude, I do,
and that's how Jenk is acting. He's like, can you believe it? Kyle said, coddle your balls, as if like who fucking cares, bro? It's the same thing when Jenk tried to scold Francesca for saying your brain is broken. He tried to act like that was like offensive. Yeah. Like I can't believe she would say that as two adults, you know, discussing a mature matter. How could you stoop to such a low? As if she like said a slur or something. It's the same thing here. But again, we got to go back and relive this. It's so
anti-war to win elections by driving away their voters, driving away the voters that are anti-war, anti-establishment in the middle. You're coddling their balls, Kyle. Okay, it's okay. We're all adults here, right? And that's what he said. But if I said that to him in the middle, I bet you he would have been super mad.
Is that how you coddle balls?
I don't know. I think he did it that way.
Anna's laughing.
I don't have enough.
Anna's laughing because what Kyle said is undeniably fucking hilarious, and Kyle's phrases are fucking hilarious, and even Anna can't stop herself from laughing when Jenk repeats it. But either way, that's so fucking funny. That's one of the top 10 Jenk moments. Coddle your balls, trying to act like that's some offensive, naughty thing to say.
Experience with it, Kyle seemed to demonstrate it pretty accurate, I guess. Anyway, seriously, guys, look, it is what it is. We have differences of opinion these days.
Come on, Cenk, you never got your balls coddled. Pretty nice.
I'm not saying cancel them, don't watch them. I mean, Anna just told you she watches Breaking Points. I go on Breaking Points. I have these conversations. I'm trying to have conversations where we discuss what is the best strategy to take power away from Trump and bring those anti-establishment, anti-war, anti-corruption voters to our side.
We get it, bro. That's what the debate was over. We're not fucking idiots. Yeah, that was Kyle's point, that coddling their balls is not the right way to do that. What is so hard about this to understand, bro? How are you going to spend 23 fucking minutes on this when, again, everyone already understands what the debate was over, and most people agree with Kyle that you're fucking wrong and that your strategy is stupid.
And by our side, I don't mean establishment Democrat. If you're going to go in that direction, they're never going to say yes. And by the way, I also don't mean radical left, because if you go in that direction, they're never going to say yes. But if you go populist left, core Bernie, economic populism, they will say yes. So please, it's not about watch this show or that show. Watch all the shows. Get all of the opinions. Okay?
You know what Bernie's doing right now? Underscoring the fascist threat of Donald Trump and going everywhere that will have him to talk about fighting the oligarchy and calling Donald Trump a fascist lunatic and saying we have to oppose him at every single fucking turn. And you know what he's not doing? Laundering the reputation of a bunch of fucking worthless, sellout, fucking conservative commentators.
Okay, make sure you're getting the facts. And at the end of the day, think through, okay, it's easy for me to get tribal and say, I hate those guys. That's an easy thing. And by the way, Kyle said, you used to do that. And some of you guys wrote in yesterday and stuff. Yeah. First of all, I do it to their politicians all the time.
The politicians
you fight
are
up,
different.
you look up,
Yes,
you fight the politicians,
yes.
okay?
Don't ever criticize me. That's what they're saying. And you know what? It's funny because I was reading The Boys on the Bus, which is Timothy Krause's book about covering the 1972 campaign election. Hunter Thompson writes the introduction to it, but he decided to cover the other journalists that were on the ground covering that campaign. That was his beat, and they called him a gossip columnist. They called him like, the equivalent of the Gazette, of the TMZ. No matter what, whenever somebody reflects on another commentator's projections or political analysis or anything else, they'll try and tell you it's like gossip or lowbrow because I don't know, maybe they don't take themselves seriously, maybe they don't understand that voicing these opinions into the internet means that people can respond to it, but alas.
The difference.
Right.
I want to emphasize that. I want to say it again because people keep conflating the politicians with the voters. I'm not interested in attacking voters. I am interested in attacking the politicians.
Bingo. And by the way, and look,
Yeah, for real.
Krystal and Kyle are pretty good on this, not some of the other shows, but also holding the Democrats accountable.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't hold the Democrats accountable, you got no credibility. So, the Republicans are terrible and they're all the devil, but the Democrats and Kamala Harris run perfect campaigns and Joe Biden's a saint. You gotta be kidding me, no way. But luckily, most people have moved on past that, right? And they were never in that camp in the first place. So look around, watch everything, and then see what do you think is the better strategy. And Kyle said that the better strategy, and repeated online throughout, is we're gonna win the left and liberals and then win the left. But that's what we've been trying to do, and we just
Literally what happened, by the way, if you look at the results through an unabashed message, the kind of people that he's talking about being left and liberals, like Brad Lander, Zoran Mamdani, they cross-endorsed each other. Brad Lander, they were like people on left Twitter in the early stages of the mayoral race were like, Brad seems all right, but he's never beating the Park Slope liberal allegations. Like, oh, this guy's kind of a lib. He's a PMC lib kind of a guy, like, oh, Brooklyn lib, whatever, right? But what did he do? He did the right thing, and he fucking endorsed Zoran, and he came to his victory party, and I had some grievances with him along the way, but for the most part, you know what I mean? He showed up. That was liberal left unity getting the fucking job done and shoving out the oligarchy, shutting out the fucking institution, the family politics, the dynasty of the Cuomos. There's a fucking bridge in New York called the Mario Cuomo Bridge that people have to drive across, okay? You know, and that guy's son lost, even with all of his name recognition, even with all of his institutional power, with millions of dollars, with endless AIPAC funding, with the entire media smearing his opponents. They did that with a left and a liberal coalition.
Yep. And as I said the other day too, like it can work in the reverse as well. Democrats are always just too stupid to realize it. But if Hillary Clinton had picked Bernie as her VP, she would have beat Donald Trump. I'm sorry, but it wouldn't have been fucking close. That would have been an unbeatable coalition.
Just lost twice to Trump doing that same exact strategy.
Yeah.
You have to win the anti-establishment voters. You do that through populist left. I don't even think Kyle and Krystal would disagree with that. I don't know if some of the radicals or the establishment guys will certainly disagree.
Right.
Maybe some of the radicals will disagree because you can't ever agree with anyone on the other side about anything, right? But overall, please use your mind.
I like to think when Jenk pictures the radicals, he's thinking of me and Gavin over here.
And please, by that, I don't mean it like in a derogatory way. Use your own independent judgment. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Kyle's word for it. Don't take Rando's word for it, okay? Think through what is the best strategy. Is the best strategy to call the other voters fascists and drive them away? Or is the better strategy say, hey, if you actually do agree with us, we're not going towards you, they're coming towards us. Anti-establishment, anti-war, anti-corruption. Then great, you're welcome. Welcome to come here. And I say that about the Young Turks. Yeah, if you're an independent voter and you believe in populism and you actually meant all those things, you are definitely welcome here. And go ask the other left-wing shows, are they welcome? Now that I've stated it this way, they'll seem like jackasses if they say they're not.
I mean,
so
yeah.
they might pretend that they are. But
The only person who looks like a jackass is Jenk, and it's hysterical that he doesn't see that, bro. This is so bad for your brand. You can't do the I'm the respectable one, I'm the one that only cares about real hard-boiled news. Like, no, you spent the first, fucking 15, 25 minutes of your show bitching and moaning about how people were unfair to you days ago. All right, you should have gotten it out of your system when you were staring across from Krystal and Kyle. You know, if you really want to have this battle and showdown, come on our show and duke it out with us. Put to rest the radicals once and for all. But you don't want to do that. You don't want to talk about the news. You just want to stroke off. The entire Young Turks would be better hosted on fucking Fansly.
every single day, they're like, fascists, go away, fascists, don't vote left, don't support the left. Well, if you do that, yeah, they're not gonna support the left. They're gonna go away just like you told them to.
One of the things that Candace Owens said today, and look, it takes.
Hey, you heard it here. Ole is willing to moderate. Jenk and Anna, I know you watch our shit. This woman is a lawyer. She's a professional. She has far more clout than probably anybody else that would ever offer to moderate such a debate between Silly and Billy and Jenk and Anna. So hear us now as we throw the gauntlet down. Ball's in your court, Jenk and Anna. We have a moderator. We have two respectful opponents. We'll even agree not to swear too much if we debate each other.
Yeah, shout out to you, Ole. That would be sick. That would be sick.
Takes balls to say this. I don't think I have the balls to say it, but she literally said, no, I don't want regime change I think we should have a talk about regime change in Israel.
Yeah.
And then she talked about how she believes that Israel has carried out more terroristic acts than Iran has, which look.
Why are you nervous to say that, Anna? That's 100% true. I'm not afraid to say that Candace Owens is correct about that because what she's saying is true. And it actually only empowers her if you act afraid to say that.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it's just a straw man. People on the left are more than capable of giving credit to some right winger when they make a good point. Like it's not that hard. Happens all the time. Even Krystal and Kyle consistently will give a guy like Dave Smith credit for kicking ass. Like Kyle just published a clip the other day of like Dave Smith destroying some asshole on Piers Morgan. Dave Smith voted for Donald Trump. It's not like Kyle is just like, I can't talk to Dave Smith because he's a Nazi. Like that's not how it. You're just making this up, bro.
That exact clip that he loves to reference of Dave Smith came out from Breaking Points.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was strong. But my point is, she is willing to look at the broader picture, right? Not just what's happening at this moment, but what has happened historically with the formation of Israel, the wars that have been fought on behalf of Israel, and she's calling it like she's seeing it. And so if there is a contingent of Trump voters, and she did vote for Trump, and now she's like speaking out against him because of what happened in Iran with the bombing of the nuclear sites and all of that. If there's a contingent on the right that consists of this anti-war, ideology on the topic of
one fucking Republican has signed on to the resolution, Anna. What burgeoning movement? Okay, they don't have fuck all for power, so let's not consider them anymore.
Yeah. Also, if someone was like 6 months ago propagandizing their audience and telling them to vote for Donald Trump, and now they want to turn around and be like, oh, I regret it. I was so wrong to do that. I can acknowledge that, I'm glad that you're admitting you were wrong. I can also acknowledge that I'm probably not going to find it like very worth listening to you in the future. If you got it that fucking wrong, and now this short amount of time later, you're having to come out here and apologize. Well, maybe I'm just not going to listen to you next time. Maybe your advice shouldn't be fucking taken, because undeniably those people are part of the reason why we're here. All those people, from Joe Rogan to Theo Vaughn to Candace Owens, all these people that now want to turn around and be like, actually, I'm not quite sure, this seems kind of fucked up or whatever. Well, yeah, keep that in mind the next time they're telling you who to vote for. Keep that in mind the next time they're weighing in on politics.
Preventing wars, I will work with them.
Yeah,
I will work with them, period. I don't care. I don't care if they're right wingers, if they are legitimate in being anti-war.
But they're not. Marjorie Taylor Greene wasn't legitimate at all, and she came on the show and you kissed her ass, and I haven't heard you call her out for not signing on to that resolution yet.
Not wanting to engage in regime change on that specific issue, yes, I will work with them. You want to know why? Because preventing war, to me, is more important than being pure to the left. I don't care about the left. I don't care about the right. I care about results. And I'm sorry, this false dichotomy, this BS like tribalism has only hurt the country. On areas where we can work together, we should work together. And I do think that there's a contingent on the right, voters, and yes, a few media folks who are sick of the regime change wars. They're sick of the forever wars, and they're not full of crap, okay? Because they literally say things publicly that could ruin them, but they say it anyway.
Yeah, so look,
that's the whole reason they're saying it. And that's the whole reason they said the support for Donald Trump, and that's the same reason they're saying, oh, I am anti-war now. Okay, it's because they have an audience of people who want to hear that shit.
Things here. So on that interview, there was times where Candace went too far.
Yes, supporting Kanye West and all that.
Oh yeah, I didn't even get to that part. Yeah. No, that's a disaster. And even when she says, I want regime change in Israel, and Pierce says, yeah, I mean, they should get rid of Netanyahu, also good so far. And then she later talked about using the military in the context of Israel. And I'm like, okay, bring it down. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so now having said that, she's saying some of the things that we on the left, me, Amy Goodman, Bernie Sanders have been saying for 20 years, but we couldn't get anybody.
Candace right up there on the Mount Rushmore of the left, right alongside Amy Goodman, Bernie Sanders, and Cenk Uygur.
Pay attention, and this sucks about American media. It's like super toxic about American media, but it's true. If you say it on the left, they're never gonna pay attention. The minute anyone on the right says it, they're like, oh, that's such an interesting point. Oh, you know what? And we'll talk about it later in the show. Tom Massey, Candace Owens, when they say, hey, what has Israel done for us? Like if you ask that, we've been asking that question for 20 years on the left and nobody paid attention. The minute those two asked the question, the American media is like, oh, wait a minute, that is a provocative question. What has Israel done for us, right? And the answer is zero, nothing. They've taken, started wars, etc. So, okay, guys, this is last thing here. Simple concept, but it hasn't been treated as a simple concept. You can agree with some things and disagree with other things about a person. And I'm saying it like I'm almost being patronizing, right? I get it, but that's because so many people say back, no, you can't. You know, you either have to be 100%.
Who says that?
Yeah,
find me the clip.
Yeah,
play the clip. You're punching a ghost.
Yeah,
for Trump or 100% against Trump. Same thing for Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, etc.
The difference between Jenk and Kyle, the really only difference, they both are more than happy to engage with right wingers and Republicans. The only difference is that Kyle debates those people and Jenk panders to them. But Kyle's not afraid of anyone. Neither is Krystal. Krystal debates a right winger pretty much every day, for one, like we talked about, her co-host. But also think about how many glorious debates she's had, shredding the likes of RFK Jr. and all these idiots that come on that show and get shredded. you know, she has no problem engaging with people who disagree with her. It's just that she actually engages and, you know, discusses said disagreements instead of papering over them in a desperate, pathetic attempt to pander to their audience.
If you even give them credit on a thing where they're agreeing with you, no, that's toxic, terrible, normalizes, blah, blah, blah. They make up a bunch of words.
There's no
legitimizing,
There's no normalizing. Okay, Candace Owens, it has been normalized. Okay, she has a massive audience, massive platform. There's nothing Jenk and I can do that further normalizes Candace Owens.
Why is she so obsessed with Candace Owens? Who's it? Like, you're the only one talking about Candace Owens, Anna. No one else. Like, you're so fucking focused on Candace.
Because Candace is blowing up right now. She's probably jealous.
Probably, yeah. She probably wants a slice of that pie. But it is funny. It's like, bro, no one but you is fixated on Candace Owens in the context of this conversation.
Wildly popular.
No, it goes to a super arrogant sense of entitlement that I think actually comes more from the establishment Democrats. And it was perfectly illustrated in the Kamala Harris-Joe Rogan situation. They're like, Kamala shouldn't go on. It would normalize, it would platform Joe Rogan.
Please.
He has 39 million subscribers.
Kyle has been on Joe Rogan more times than I can count.
Definitely, like literally, I mean, Jenk's been on 1 time. Kyle's been on like 7 times.
Yeah.
He would literally be platforming Kamala Harris, not the other way around. And they're like, no, don't do it. No, but then you're stuck in your own little cave and no one's platform.
I listen to a lot of left-wing shows. I remember everyone saying that Kamala should go on Joe Rogan. Like, you know, I even remember people that were like on the far left that were like, yeah, she should go on Joe Rogan. It's actually not that hard to convince Joe Rogan of what you're saying as long as you put it in a pretty convincing way. Like, it would be hard to squander this opportunity. She should definitely take it. Cenk is, again, just straw manning the left. If anything, he's just talking about like shit lib arguments that people like Krystal and Kyle are not associated with.
You and you're like, I haven't platformed anyone. Yeah, that's why no one have heard from you. Okay, so like he's giving you an opportunity to make your case. And that's another thing I was surprised by. I thought that they would see the bro shows are an open rebellion, right? Rogan again today, beating up Trump on immigration, not even the wars, right? Tim Dillon, Theo Vaughn, massively beating up Israel and saying, what are they doing for us and get out of the wars, etc. I'm like, and they're like, nope.
And what were they doing right up until the election? Telling you to vote for Donald Trump.
I don't see it. And they said that Rogan was like, I don't know, I don't want to paraphrase. You can watch the interview for yourself, tyt.com/press. But like he put Rogan in the same batch as MAGA, I believe. I'm like, no. Rogan has a whole bunch of right-wing positions I don't agree with, but he's not MAGA. That's a different category. He's in the brosphere. They're more independent. They're not in in that same category. They agree, there's a lot of overlap, right? But on war, and even on immigration, he's like, why are they kidnapping people off the streets in the middle of the country,
He's
right?
actually been good on the topic of immigration. I remember Rogan got a lot of backlash in Trump's first term because
then he went and turned around and fucking endorsed him, dog, had him on the show and said, yeah, I've got to support this guy. What are you talking about? He's been good on immigration.
That was the whole source of Kyle's frustration. He was like, let me play you some clips of Joe Rogan from 4 years ago when he said this thing. And now let's contrast with the fact that he's supporting a guy who's running on mass deportations, which, by the way, does not just mean of criminals. No, it means of fucking random dudes at the construction site and the lady who's like serving food at the cafeteria at your kid's school and a bunch of fucking innocent people. Yeah, we knew that was coming. And now people like Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz want to turn around and be like, oh, can you believe they're going after the people at the construction sites and the ladies in the cafeterias? What? And the women at the hotel that clean your room? What? I can't believe they're going after all these innocent people. This is terrible. And it's like, well, Trump literally ran on that and also demonized the entire population, the entire immigrant population of whatever the fuck town in Ohio that was full of a bunch of innocent people that were here legally.
Eating the cats, the dogs. It was disgusting. It was one of the most depraved things I've ever seen in my entire life. And I thought the American people were going to fucking throw him away like a fucking crumbled up piece of trash. It was really disappointing that was not the end of Donald Trump's career. But the other thing I would like to add is that Joe Rogan not only supported him, but sat amongst the oligarchs at his inauguration and clapped for him as he became president. So I don't want to fucking hear shit about Joe Rogan being, oh, he's one of our guys. He's MAGA. He is a Donald Trump supporter. He got in the tank whole hog for him because he has a hard-on for fucking Elon Musk. And that guy was loosely affiliated with the, I guess deeply affiliated with the administration at one point.
Because he hated Trump's immigration policies and spoke out against it.
Yeah.
So look, I think Americans are a lot more complicated and complex than all left or all right. I think most people are a mix of some conservative views, some liberal views, some far left views, some far right views. It's a mix. Ordinary people.
This projection. She's like, I don't want to see any minorities, and go ahead and give people health care if they're white, and I think they're up for it, but everybody else, and just keep them out of my neighborhood.
Or hodgepodge of political views. And so I think the issue that I have in general is this effort or this obsession to impugn people's character based on their views on one issue or their opinion on one issue or the other.
Or which side they're on.
Or which side they're on.
It's just pure tribalism. It's like tribalism crack. So you know you're on tribalism crack when the other side comes to you and you reject them. Like, we're not going to them. They're like, oh, you're doing the strategy Kamala Harris and Joe Biden did where they try to get Republicans in the suburbs.
Do you really think that if fucking like Donald Trump announced tomorrow we're doing Medicare for all, straight up universal health care, we're getting rid of the private health insurance companies, do you think Kyle would not be happy about that? Do you not think Krystal would give him credit if, again, he actually got it done? Like, I'm being serious. Do you not think that they would be happy about that? I'm pretty sure they would.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, they did that strategy by wrapping their arms around Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, and conservative corporatist positions. That's a terrible strategy.
And Kyle called it out explicitly, and so did Krystal.
No, but when the other side comes to you and goes, you're right, we're anti-war, you're right, we like the idea of anti-corruption. Yeah, you could say, hey, you picked the wrong guy for that, Donald Trump. But the right guy is Bernie Sanders and others. You could have that conversation like grown-ups and like human beings, or you could do what a lot of the other left is doing. Fascist, wrong tribe, I hate you, right? Well, then that brother isn't gonna have a conversation with you,
right?
And he's not gonna come to your side.
Bro, this guy has not talked to a single working class person in maybe the last 2 decades, I can tell.
Also, that's literally what Jenk does on Piers Morgan, as we've said a million times. So like, why are you hurting the cause of Palestine, Jenk? Every time you go on there and do exactly that, the thing that you're mocking and scolding other people for doing in a slightly different context. Like, it's just so stupid.
Again, I find it so obvious, but yet there is a real massive school of thought that says, no, don't try to get those voters to come to your side. Call them evil and shun them. And shun Rogan when he agrees with you, shun Candace Owens, shun Tucker, to shun all of them, even when they take positions that were like textbook left-wing anti-war positions, right?
Yeah, look, guys.
And that's just, to me, that's mental. But if you think that makes sense, okay, good. There's tons of left-wing shows that are doing that. You'll be thrilled.
Yeah, everybody is making that decision, Jenk. That's why your ratings are in the toilet, okay? That's why you're freaking out, malding, crying, pissing, wailing.
Yeah, he's like, watch all the shows and you can decide for yourself who has the right strategy. It's like, yeah, bro, I think that's already happened. Everyone's already done that, and that's why your views are in the fucking garbage.
Yeah.
Go on there and they'll just, they're like, oh, they agreed with us. They're liars. They're fascists. Ha ha. We drive them away. We drive all their voters away. Oh my God, there's like dozens of shows like that. So you'll enjoy that.
So look, the final thing I'll say is I became politicized in the lead up to the preemptive war in Iraq. And at that time, and for a long time after that, every single Republican, we're talking about voters, members of the media and the politicians, were neocons. Every single one of them. There wasn't an anti-war conservative to be found. And it brings tears to my eyes that today that has changed.
Oh my God.
That is a good thing.
Fuck
because
off, Anna. Fuck off. That's like saying, like, not that I'm part of the LGBT community, but when like Target and Boeing and all these various corporations started appropriating the iconography of pride movements and of, gay movements to plaster all over their brands. That's no different. That's exactly what the Republican Party does with anti-war messages. They appropriate left-wing talking points because they're popular with the people to trick said people into voting for a party that is in fact still very pro-war. And all of these idiot commentators that engage in that but still tell their audience members to vote for the Republicans at the end of the day, they're guilty. So why are you happy about that? If anything, you should be disgusted. Again, they're appropriating our message to trick their dumb voters instead of letting those voters arrive at the real conclusion, which will actually get them the results that will, be anti-war in reality. It's crazy.
Yes, it is like a real doctor on one side of the street and a snake oil salesman on the other. And it's like, are you really going to split hairs over the snake oil salesman? He's trying his best to treat the people. It's like, yeah, well, he's not actually going to treat them. It's snake oil. But he says he's going to treat them. At least he's trying, okay? He wants to do his best. He's putting his snake oil on him every day. They keep buying it because they want it to work. And it's like, yeah, dude, but we have to say, fuck that snake oil salesman. He's selling snake oil. Come to the doctor and get healed. That's what your job is supposed to be.
Yeah. And again, we've been over this a million times. It wasn't even that long ago that fucking, some people on the left were so horny to give credit to Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, for saying that we should defund the FBI. And I was like, don't give credit to her. She's not an abolitionist. She's a racist fucking bitch. Don't give this woman credit for saying we should defund the FBI. She's appropriating our fucking movement. She's distracting people from the real abolitionist movement, which she is not part of. So don't give her fucking credit for appropriating our slogan to trick stupid people into thinking that she's anti-establishment, when in reality she's the biggest bootlicker on the block. Fuck that shit. And it's no different than what Anna's doing here. She's so fucking horny to give credit to evil ghouls for saying the right thing once or twice. Meanwhile, everyone who's actually on the principled right side of history, she's more than eager to throw under the bus and shit all over and slander.
Yep.
We have to end this paradigm. It is crushing our country.
Yeah.
And so look, if you think I'm a bad person, if you think Cenk's a bad person for being willing to work with anyone on the right who agrees with our anti-war stance, then you can go ahead and think we're bad people. I really don't.
How did that work out for you in November?
Don't give a damn.
Yeah,
because I want to see results. I want to see change, and you're not going to.
How did it work?
Get it by living and dying in an echo chamber.
Because of that, I'm forced to say one super last thing, guys.
Of course.
Of course. So guys, I covered the Iraq War. Young Turks was on the air in 2002 in the lead up to the Iraq War.
God,
and so that was Ben Mankiewicz and I back.
You had an audience of like fucking 13 people
back then. And we were one of only 2 national shows against the Iraq War. The other one was by the legend, Amy Goodman. So Democracy Now! And the Young Turks going, no, don't go in. And they were doing the same exact playbook as they are on Iran now, right? Now, here we are, we both survived, we're lone survivors of original digital media, right? And so, and now we're both against the Iran war. And
we're gonna have to put an NSFW label on this. This is a crazy amount of masturbation.
The hat to Amy Goodman, total legend. We appreciate you, sister. Okay.
Still going strong, by the way.
Yeah. And so now that is why what Anna said, if you didn't live through it, you don't know it. I was tearing my hair out in the lead up to the Iraq war. They didn't attack us. They didn't attack us. It's a lie. And the weapons of mass destruction, well, that's not even true. And we're not going to be greeted as liberators. It's crazy, right? And at the time, there wasn't a single Republican you could find. Every Republican was pro-war.
Correct.
And anytime you say, you so you're best friends with Saddam Hussein, support the troops. That's what everyone on the right would say. And almost everyone in the middle, because of so much brainwashing by mainstream media, right? Now we have allies.
He is on fucking crack. He's the one that's on fucking crack if he thinks that there was a terrorist attack by Iran, that those same fucking guys would still be out here saying we need peace. Are you fucking kidding me? You think Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz, fucking Theo Vaughn would be out here all level-headed after they've seen like 1,000 Americans get killed? Are you fucking kidding me? That's what we put the Iranians through all the time. That's what happened in Tehran. Oh yeah, hey, 800 people got killed by Israelis and Americans, but we have to just take it on the chin because otherwise all of you will perish. Okay? Flip that on the head. See for 1 second if any of these motherfuckers are still anti-war. It's
on the right, and it's unbelievable. It's It's a great thing that they're allies. And even in this preposterous fantasy land thinking that they're all lying in unison, who cares? Because they're telling their viewers to be anti-war. They're telling their viewers, be careful about Israel driving this agenda like they did in the Iraq war. So all of those viewers and voters are getting that message. And now we have allies, and tons of people on our side are trying to drive those allies away. Having fought with no allies at all against the Iraq war, trust me, you're in infinitely better shape with allies. And then they'll say, oh yeah, but what good does it do? Well, without allies, without MAGA pushing back, would Donald Trump have been as clear about Israel? You're gonna do the ceasefire, you're gonna bring your planes back?
Me, dude?
Maybe.
Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, what did you?
It was all thanks to Jenk.
They unsuccessfully, I don't know if you saw that this morning, Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump had to come out and be like, we're not sure how successful the strikes were on those nuclear sites. We're not sure, we haven't, they fucked it all up, they bungled it. And that was another reason why they backed off. They got humiliated, okay? They were absolutely humiliated. They bungled the operation. And Netanyahu had already accomplished what he wanted to do. He was able to take people's eye off of the ball and the suffering. And as Gavin pointed out the other day, worked for Donald Trump. He was able to take people's eye off of the massively unpopular ICE raids. You are so dense. You're like a donkey. What is it? Like a fucking dumb as a mule and twice as thick? That's what fucking Jenk is.
Maybe he would have, and maybe he wouldn't have. And would he have been? Remember when he first said we're going to put ground troops into Gaza? MAGA pushed back ferociously, and he reversed it in 24 hours. Again, if you watch those shows, you don't know that probably.
If Trump gave a fuck about these people, he wouldn't have struck Iran in the first place. What are you talking about? He's like, oh, after doing the thing that all these people were telling him not to do, he kind of sort of reversed course like a week later, and that's thanks to their efforts and mine too, I guess, sort of. What? He wouldn't have done that shit in the first place if he gave a single fuck what any of these people were saying. If he was listening to Dave Smith or fucking, all these goofy losers who you think are representative of some movement on the right wing that is, mostly an online thing.
Because they don't tell you when it works, right? So I do know having half of MAGA push back against this, or half of Trump's voters overall push back against this, is definitely at least a little.
70% of the people who voted for Donald Trump supported those strikes after they happened. So he's lying to you, and he's using massively selective data.
Still helpful so that we get to a moderation and don't bring ground troops into Gaza or Iran and get enmeshed in a terrible war. And at the very least, guys, get caught trying to build an alliance to stop a war, because policy is infinitely more important than which tribe you're in.
100%.
Every
Wow,
time
they're stealing our catchphrase. Anna keeps chiming in with 100%. I'm like, hey, that's ours.
True. Also, let's see the comments, Zach, because earlier today when I was looking at him, it wasn't pretty for Jenk and Anna.
Let's sort by top comments. Trump is the establishment now, Jenk. Also, they never said all Trump voters are fascists. Wait until Jenk finds out Trump's ceasefire was crap. Candace flirts with flat earth. Sure, we can agree on this issue, but she's a bad actor. If you agree, you just don't agree. Don't coddle.
I didn't know she flirted with flat earth. That's hilarious.
I'm not surprised.
Me neither.
Focusing on populism will turn people onto your ideology, not coddling. Could you work with people who actually agree with you instead of the idiots who only agree with you on two things? Krystal and Kyle made Jenk look like a bratty child throwing a tantrum. I watched Jenk's interview with Krystal and Kyle. He opened by asking if they live on his planet, an unnecessarily insulting start. Personally, I prefer living in Canada where minor disagreements don't have to spiral into toxic arguments.
Bro, this is on TYT. Holy shit. Jenk, Anna, let me tell you a story about a scorpion asking a frog to help him cross a river. This guy's having to cite fucking Aesop's fables and shit to teach Jenk this lesson that, again, even children understand. Zach, what the fuck is going on? This is, again, on TYT's channel. We're not cherry picking. These are the top comments. We've gone through 10 or 11 now, and every single one is anti-Jenk and Anna calling out this obvious line of gaslighting horseshit.
Yup. And again, just because Candace or Tucker or their listeners agree with you on this issue doesn't mean they will vote left. They literally think you're evil. That's true. Just because they might poll that they are slightly above water on something. Gavin, do you remember when Fox News put out a poll that turned out above water on Medicare for all, and they shat the bed and buried it. And Bernie Sanders actually elevated it and was like, even Fox News is finding polls that 50% plus of Americans want Medicare for all. Okay, does that mean that all of Fox News people that they polled were willing to abandon that position and, you know, start voting for Democrats? Like, or, you know,
Right.
or like abandon their entrenchment in the Republican Party, I should say, and start voting for Democrats? Of course not. Right? They might be like, oh, you know what? Damn, I fucking hate how I don't qualify for Medicare, and that would make my life a lot easier if I did, if everybody had Medicare. But they're still going to be like, well, I need my gun and I hate trans kids, so got to vote for Republicans. And the people who are really up for grabs are people who don't vote.
Yep, 100%. Either way, pretty brutal that the comment section was, you know, so unanimously against Cenk and Anna on their own freaking channel. What a humiliation. And again, Jenk wants to say, like, you know, fucking watch all the shows and then see whose strategy is right. That's what people have been doing, bro. Your strategy has aged like fucking milk. Like almost immediately, a week into the Trump administration, it came crashing down upon you. And instead of having the goddamn humility to just admit that you might have got this one a little bit wrong, and then maybe you put a little bit too much faith in your fellow right-wing countrymen or whatever the fuck, like you could have just admitted that and said, hey, sorry, I wanted to believe, I wanted to think that MAGA was more anti-war than they really are, but unfortunately that's been proven incorrect. Like no one would really care. That's the crazy thing. But nope, got to keep digging, got to keep doubling down, tripling down, and again, digging a hole that eventually he just will not be able to get himself out of.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be there. The Vanguard